Thanks for joining us. We're in the studio this week, a bit of a different setting, as we chat with Chevaun Toulouse, who is from Sagamore Anishinaabe First Nation. She is also making incredible strides in learning her language, storytelling. She's a species at risk technician while also being a full-time biology and Indigenous environmental student and a mother. And I would really like to just dive into this conversation with her. And Chevaun's joining us now. So welcome, Chevaun. Thanks for joining us. I was just hoping you could tell us a bit about yourself to start.
My name is Chevaun Toulouse, Indigenous. I'm from Sagamore, on the north shore of Lake Huron, and it's a small community. It's like about 2,000 people, most of my cousins. um, and there's a lot of swamps, so I kind of grew up playing in the swamp most of my like with all my friends for most of my childhood. So I always like loved being out in the wetland.
What did you do after graduation at the Sioux College?
I finished the Fish and Wildlife Conservation Program, and I got to work with MNRF and the Ontario Forest Science Center in Sioux. And yeah, that was awesome. I got to like travel with my team, and we went all over Ontario doing like different on this forestry project.
Oh, wow.
And I like everywhere I went, I was like flipping logs and looking for things. And at first they were like, you do more damage to our sites than a bear. Like I could always tell where we'd go about. So I'm like, I need to put things back. So I was just learning as I go. But like my team was like always like really intrigued on what I was gonna find. Like we would work a long day in the woods, and then on the way back they would be like, all right, Chevaun, go look for stuff. And then I would like show them like, look at these salamanders. Like I was so excited.
You still have energy after those long days.
I know. I was like, I
Actually,
can't believe they let me do it. Like, we were all so tired heading back to the work truck. We'd have to hike back out of the woods, but they'd be like, oh, let's see what Chevaun finds.
it's like a huge dream of every kid to work at a zoo, and you were able to work at the Toronto Zoo, and I'm just immensely jealous.
Yeah, same. Like I'd seen they'd come to the community before Turtle Island Conservation. It was out at the Toronto Zoo, and they'd come to my community before, and I was like, wow, it's they do all this work with like turtles and snakes. And so just like every like I feel like every other month I'd like send them my resume. Since I like just never gave up. And then I was just wrapping up my forestry contract, and they interviewed me, and I was like, oh my God. And
That's
during
so
the
awesome.
interview they're like, do you have like family in Toronto? Like would you be able to move here? And I was like, yeah, totally. But I just lied. And when I got the job, I just
I'll figure it
got on
out.
a flight, and I lived in a hotel for a little bit
Oh,
until I
wow.
got a place. But I was like, I didn't even know it was like a 2-month contract, but I managed to extend myself. But I
Oh,
was just
good.
like all in, like I'm going to Toronto, I'm gonna work at the zoo. I was super determined.
Can you tell us a bit more about what exactly you did for the conservation program at Toronto Zoo?
It's a Blandings turtle project, and they collect Blandings turtle eggs from secure populations, and they take them to the zoo and incubate them and head start them at the zoo. They're active all winter. You get to see them grow, and I loved checking them out. And yeah, and then we release them in a man-made, well, like in a wetland, to try and reintroduce their populations and stabilize them. And we put trackers on them. So I got to work with a team of other Indigenous girls and some students. And yeah, we were in the swamp every day, and I just loved it. I'd never worked in like southern Ontario, so I got to see so many more like wildlife species, like the birds coming through. I got to like learn and see so much. I loved working for the zoo. It was an amazing project.
For the fun facts this week, Chevaun is actually going to share some of the Ojibwe words for some common animals we find in and around Ontario.
Big turtle, McKinnock. In Ojibwe, it looks like the meanings heads spread out. So McKinnock, it's usually used for snapping turtles. Just turtle in general, Mashikanyuk or Mashikanyak.
Another really cool project that I wanted to touch on was your dabbling in filmmaking and your participation in a really cool documentary series called The Great Lakes Untamed. And I obviously looked it up, and I've actually watched the episodes of it. But I think it's like so valuable, the series, because the Great Lakes system, the Great Lakes watershed, like I'm so passionate about it, but like I think we are just so used to it, and we don't share about it too much. So like the world just doesn't care. It's so amazing, the system. You know, it has I think like a quarter of the fresh water, like the world's fresh water in it. You know, Canada's population, like one third of the population depends on it. It's attached to the Carolinian Life Zone, which has like so many species. Like it's amazing. And you had a hand in researching and producing this film series to showcase how amazing it is. And I find it amazing. How was that experience?
It was great. I became a member of the Canadian Herpetological Society, and Ted Oakes had reached out, and he was just asking if anyone have any reptile stories around the Great Lakes. So I was like, oh, I have lots of stories like that. So I reached out back to him, and yeah, it just kicked off from there. Like I never thought anything of filmmaking or getting into that. I just like being in the swamp. But yeah, Ted brought me onto the project and coming up with some ideas. Like I was like I was telling him about the blue racer,
Hmm.
and I'm like, it's such a beautiful, fast moving snake, and it's only on this one island. And yeah, so that made it into the show, and I got to be a big part of that, the blue racer segment. And then he was also asking like, do I have any like other stories? And I'd asked my dad, and he'd grown up trapping and whatnot. He was born in the 50s, so he grew up trapping animals, and he was telling me how one time he was out in winter, and a ruffed grouse like shot out of the snow, and I told Ted about it, and then that made it into the show. And it was just really awesome to see that with my dad, like exactly like what he described to me. It was like on TV. And I guess it hasn't been filmed that often, that behavior in ruffed grouse.
Oh,
So,
cool.
yeah, and like I got to be a part of the like on Peely for filming and seeing how things are made, and being a part of that team, the filmmaking team. It was just really amazing, like a totally different world than what I'd been with that I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, it was amazing. And then yeah, even like editing and going through the logging, and it was great. And then it's like I've just seen it like bit by bit, editing, and then seeing it on the TV, and like the full, like it was great. I loved it.
That's awesome. Do you think you see this kind of creativity filming in your future kind of thing? Do you want to keep it going somehow?
I think like yeah, I'd love to continue helping on any filming. I do think my heart is in the swamp and chasing things down and catching critters, but I did really love filming. It was amazing and just really rewarding seeing it on the TV. And like it was like cuz it was during COVID, so we were all just meeting each other on Zoom, but we had all these awesome Zoom meetings. Everyone was very involved and excited, and
Yeah.
like yeah, and like Jeff was in BC, and like we were all over the place, but we'd all meet up on Zoom, and we had lots of fun meetings.
A really cool experience, and I'm really happy for you that you got to participate in the Great Lakes Untamed series. Definitely
Yeah.
something that I think could be, maybe not in your future, but could be a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Opportunity. Yeah, it was a lot of work, but seeing it on the TV with my family was the best experience ever. And yeah, getting to work with on the team and with Ted was great. He involved me in like everything.
Oh, that's awesome. For the fun facts this week, Chevaun is actually going to share some of the Ojibwe words for some common animals we find in and around Ontario.
I always knew like Ganebig was snake, but I've just found out the meaning to that word is like long pointed, so it's just describing the snake.
Linking back to your family and stuff, you've shared that you weren't really connected to your culture prior to kind of your job at Toronto and stuff,
Yeah,
correct?
my grandma, she went to residential school, so so like culture wasn't really in my family too much, but she was really into the language though, very much into language preservation, and would take me to powwows. But yeah, yeah, so I didn't get to grow up like learning my language at all. And now that I'm a parent, I'm trying to like change that around. So I've been looking up a lot of Ojibwe names. Like my son's like 2, but he's like obsessed with my field guides and he's
Oh,
constantly pointing at every single thing. So I just like started looking up and researching the names and like finding these really old books and old Google
wow.
Docs like from the 1700s. Or I'm like trying to find, I made these Excel sheets so I could label his books, and then he's making me name it every day too. So I'm kind of learning it with him.
Oh, that's
So
such a treasure moment. Wow. And I recently saw that you helped with a coloring book as well for, you're doing this with your son, but you are also helping other families learn the language as well.
yeah, well, and then yeah, like my grandma went to residential school, so she hated snakes so much, and she hated when I looked for them all the time. She like if I put something like a board down, she'd be furious because she knows what I'm doing. She'd like pick it up and put it on, I'll just like put it up so it's not, yeah. So I think a lot of families have that shared, like I noticed in like a lot of communities, there's this just, like real fear of snakes. So like, yeah, I like to try and like go to communities and handle snakes and talk about the benefits they have for the environment. So yeah, like I try to find the names and the old stories, and there's so many good old stories with snakes. It was just sort of like around colonization and all that. Like that's when the shift in snake perspectives came. So yeah, I got to like work on this book with Magnetawan. So that was awesome. I'd worked with Magnetawan after working with the zoo. I went on to work with Meg, and that was amazing. I got to like see rattlesnakes for the first time and work with
Oh,
them.
wow.
So that was amazing. I love Massasaugas. They're great.
I really think it's cool that you're helping not just your own family and your own community, but you're kind of like spreading the wealth. And another way you've done that I saw was with Saugeen Conservation Authority. You were recently sharing some of the bird species in Ojibwe and how to pronounce them and a bit more of the meaning behind the names as well.
Yeah, I just started these Excel sheets, like just looking through old documents, and sometimes like I'm like really trying to find reptiles and amphibians, but I'll see birds and
Mm.
other like yeah, plants. So I started all these different Excel sheets trying to like for each single thing. So I was able to find like a lot of bird names. So I have a whole sheet of that that I send off to anyone who's interested. And like yeah, I've been adding like even in my bird field guide, I've been printing off the labels and putting them in there for my son so we could practice those every day. But I sent it to Sagin, and they contacted me back, and they wanted to make like do something more with the list and make these like beautiful graphics, and I loved them. And even yeah, I shared that with my family, and they were like, wow, this is beautiful. Like all I have is like an Excel sheet in front of me, and then they turned it into something like yeah, with the name and the meaning. And I love the Sagin bird series. It's amazing.
They were spectacular and um, definitely something that I learned from as well. So, and yeah, I think that it was a great project and a really cool way to share the Ojibwe language. But I have a question. So, the Ojibwe language, there's different dialects though, right? Where, like in
Yeah.
Ontario?
Like my grandma, she was originally from Wiki or Wikwemikong, and she'd always say that she's speaking in Odawa dialect. And then yeah, there's a couple of different dialects. And like I know like even like words like Ganabig, another community like makes the G sound like a K. Like the dialects are yeah, like it's similar. There's similarities. So like yeah, Gajik or Kajik, and
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
cat. And yeah, so there's just like these slight differences. Yeah, it's I've been trying to include different dialects in my Excel sheets that I'm doing.
Mhm. We kind of talking about it and bringing in like Western science and traditional knowledge and stuff. And I know you've discussed in the past that the stuff that you're learning in university, you really want to bring back to your community and you really want to see the integration of kind of both of those things and, sorry, more the incorporation of traditional knowledge into our Western practices. One, I think, was around the like burning of grasslands and stuff and how it was done historically. And then European settlers obviously changed some things.
Yeah, like fire, like before it was just naturally used to landscape the environment, and like it helped like lots of different species grow of like flora, and helped a lot. And yeah, it's like it was just naturally done to landscape the land. And then during colonization there's like a fire suppression, like fire's bad. So
The
just
bear.
always putting it out. And
Yeah.
now we've had all this like dead wood fuel building up. Um and yeah, like now when there's like a fire happening, it's like huge and chaotic now, because there's just been years of like the years of it not like no prescribed or cultural burning happening. So you have all this stuff in the woods. So like bigger fires and climate change. It's like, so yeah, like I'm hoping that like my community does do some prescribed burns in the spring. So I'm hoping, yeah, just like involving more youth in that and teaching them the benefits of fire to the landscape. Yeah, I'd love to see more of that, and I'm hoping to be a part of it in my
Mhm.
community, and yeah, just any other communities.
So, kind of touching back, bringing in traditional knowledge and storytelling. Um, I think if people hear these stories and see wildlife, it could really change perspectives. And I think what you're doing with like even the coloring book and stuff like that is can really help with like environmental practices and appreciation.
Yeah, and like I never thought any of my work would turn like, like become any of these things. And like these organizations that I've gotten to work with and the people a part of it, like really like the Saugeen Conservation Bird Series, like it really inspired me. Like I'm gonna find more bird names and more meanings. Like this is amazing. I need to like keep expanding on that. And the
Mhm.
coloring book as well. Like I'm like, this is amazing. Like I love that I can share this with my kid. Like back when I was little, there wasn't anything like that at all. Like I would have loved that coloring book when I was a kid. And
Yeah,
now I get to share it with my kids. So yeah, I just feel really inspired by the people and the organizations that have made that happen. And yeah, it really makes me want to keep going, keep working at it.
that's good. Do you kind of have any future major uh, goals?
Well, I'm finishing school, and yeah, like my big like I would love to just like yeah, get something going like what the Chevaun has in my own community, and just continuing to work and share with other communities, so we can just like there's so many species at risk and the environment is always just in peril. So just like really trying to like spread this work around and get youth really interested in the environment. I know a lot of my little cousins, they're like glued to their iPads and playing games. And I'm like, it's so amazing outside. Like it's I just
That's
like
really
I feel
cool.
like even like citizen science and using apps like iNaturalist and the Merlin Bird app, I think are like really like yeah, like I love bio blitzes, and
Mm.
I want to do those in my community too. Like I loved being a part of bio blitz in Southern Ontario. So I'm hoping to just do more of that with youth, and just really getting youth involved in the environment and interested in it.
For the fun facts this week, Chevaun is actually going to share some of the Ojibwe words for some common animals we find in and around Ontario.
I've always heard the word mucky used for frog. That's what my grandma would call it. And I've been able to find some sources in old documents that like mucky just means like it is bare or hairless.
So you were nominated for the National First Nations Water Leadership Award um, through the federal government, I believe, and it was in recognition of leadership and dedication you have shown to the advancement of clean and safe drinking water in First Nations community for today and future generations, which, full stop, is awesome. But how do you encourage your community to engage in this type of work, or how do you see that in the future, that work?
I'm hoping yeah, like kind of like yeah, doing like bio blitzes and like benthic monitoring I think would be really fun. Like I'd never done any like benthic monitoring work before. Like at Sioux College, they would take us out and we had the dip nets, and I was so amazed by all the thing like all the different invertebrates and uh like and all the great things that they do for the water, and I never heard of them or seen them before. So I'm hoping to kind of do programs like that.
Mm.
And yeah, just a lot of like, I'm hoping to do some benthic monitoring and some bio blitzes related to what we have in the water. um like I feel like there's a great interest in fish. And yeah, just like expanding on that,
Mhm.
and the need for our water systems to be healthy. And also, like, turtles perform a lot of services for the water in the wetlands and clean the wetlands they live in, just like through absorbing the toxins in their skin. So I'm hoping to kind of do like programming also, like what I did with the Toronto Zoo, like maybe like a incubation station for the eggs, because yeah, raccoons end up predating a lot of them. I find a lot of dug up nests. So I'm hoping to just, yeah, really work a lot with the wetland species.
How can people outside of your community or other First Nation communities help with that kind of work?
I'm hoping just, yeah, with like through partnering and sharing of resources, we can all work together towards the common goal of our safe, clean drinking water and preservation of our water species, or conservation. Yeah.
How would you encourage young people and youth to get outside? If they don't typically, or they haven't before got, really felt the urge to do it, how would you encourage them to just dive in?
For me, I loved reptiles and amphibians. That's just what I'm love and what I'm drawn to. But I think like when I would go to bio blitzes, I found you if there's like a certain part of the environment you're interested in, you get to join a group of people, and you can use your phone, iNaturalist, and like learn more and identify, and like maybe your sighting's the first one in the area, and you get to contribute to something like science. And I think like bio blitzes are really helpful, like that can get youth involved. And yeah, like using the citizen science apps is really fun. You get to, like, yeah, IDing everything as you're finding it is pretty fun, pretty, yeah, interesting and fun. So and
Learning.
just, yeah, having a knowledgeable person who's able to take you out and show you the stuff. So I just think through that, and really highlighting the need for the conservation of it. And I like to, yeah, bring in its like cultural relevance. And
Mhm.
yeah, I'm just really hoping to get youth involved.
Well, thank you so much, Siobhan, for sharing all of your stories and your experiences. And, I mentioned in the intro that, you have so many accomplishments, and it feels like you're just getting started. So I can't wait to see like what the future holds for you and kind of the footprint that you'll leave on your community and beyond. So thank you so much for joining.
Let's keep in touch. Thank you so much.
So thanks again to Siobhan for sharing her story and all of her amazing accomplishments with us. And thanks for joining me in the studio. And until next time, see you in nature.